Hey there, thanks for tuning in. Today on the show, just me, because Paul got his very own episode last time, and apparently I got jealous, so now I'm taking my very own episode this time, but I'm not that interesting all on my own, so we're going to dive into Fogtown with Sean Parker. It's a twisted little puppet noir mystery that's part live action, part video game, and all chaos. It's handcrafted, it's genre bending, and it's a world where comedy, crime, and puppetry, they all collide together. But we're not just going to talk about Fogtown, because Paul said that's the thing we need to do, is talk about a subject. So today we're going to talk about the genre itself, where live action games came from, where they're going, and how something like this even gets made in 2025. So let's get into it. Hey Sean, how's it going?
Hey there, it's going rather well. Great to be here.
Lovely. I'm super happy to have you. Can you kind of walk me through how Fogtown started? Like, was it always puppets and noir, or did it evolve into that?
Well, Fogtown is something that's kind of existed in one form or another for about 15 years now. And before the pandemic hit, it was purely conceived as a TV show that was going to be live action with a lot of kind of cartoony elements to it, but not puppets. That shift happened once COVID locked everything down, and we needed a project to not go crazy during quarantine. And puppetry arose as a way to get around having a lot of people on a film set. And we quickly realized, oh my gosh, this is exactly what this project was missing from the get-go. We found what it needed to be.
So why video games? Like, okay, let me take a step back here, because how did you play video games before? Did you grow up playing video games or computer games, adventure games? Like, what made you think, hey, I want to do a computer game?
Oh yeah, I was huge into gaming from a pretty young age, and adventure games were a particular fascination for me. I mostly was into the LucasArts stuff growing up, but then as I went into college, this is probably in the late aughts, I, thanks to adventuregamers.com, found just like the wealth of old stuff that was out there that I had missed growing up, and just kind of became my focus, just playing old retro adventure games for a good few years, and just completely finding my genre through that.
Yeah, like I guess like did you always plan for it to be both a show and a game, and did you want it to be like detective but like quirky and funny? What was your, I don't know, when you first were coming up with the idea, what did it start out as?
So the idea for Fogtown that always was present was it's our homage, our take, our loving satire on Sherlock Holmes, and kind of putting it through the lens of a more neurodivergent angle than a lot of oh wait, no, what am I saying? All Sherlock Holmes is neurodivergent. Uh, we wanted to put it through a lens of Sherlock, our lead detective, struggling a lot with being really, really easily distracted by clues that might not be relevant to his case, and having a lot of imposter syndrome. Like that, kind of those are the two things that we wanted to really lead with our character in this, and kind of mine a lot of fun challenges and vulnerability, but also some definitely incredible superpowered leaps of logic he's able to make. So that's kind of like that's the main thrust of Fogtown. You've got a detective that's brilliant but dysfunctional and moves very, very, very fast. Uh, and the tone is it's sometimes it gets quite silly, but the goal is to really make the characters be quite authentic and believable, and ones that you root for, even if they make some pretty big mistakes on the regular, just like the rest of us.
Well, it's it's super quirky and dark and sweet. Like it's actually a really cool tone considering it's puppets. It's really easy to identify with the characters.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. That was kind of one of our big revelations when we shifted to puppets, was just how much more endearing the whole concept became. And it was just like, oh my gosh, yes, get to lean into the cute, and pull at people's heartstrings even more than we previously could.
So walk me through, what is the storyline of Fogtown? If you were to describe it to somebody in one or two paragraphs, what would you say about it?
Now, you talk about the kind of Fogtown as a whole, or Fogtown as in this very specific game project?
Right, this very well. You know what? If there's more to it, I'd like to know about this game project, and I mean, we can get later into the 30-minute sort of episode that you put out after, which is pretty cool as well. And then later, sort of the broader scheme. It sounds like you have more planned than just this.
Oh yes, we've been, as I mentioned, we were working on Fogtown for about 15 years, and in that time, it's gone through a lot of iterations. But much of the work is still like relevant, and I want to produce it, and it's many seasons worth of material. So yeah, there's quite a few long-term arcs that we want to dive into, if we can, and that can extend across show and the games, which are separate storylines. We're not trying to do, oh, this is the interactive version of this episode, but they all exist in a nice continuity together without requiring people to play all the games and all the show if they wanted to understand what was going on. We've seen multiverses fall on their faces trying to do that kind of homework to people. So no thanks.
Okay, cool. So yeah, all right. Well, let's talk about just the game itself. If somebody were to go and pick it up on Steam right now, what would they expect?
So what we're making is a throwback FMV game. So the game is completely built of video clips. A lot of them are very short. They're modular. They're designed to be swapped in and out based on the numerous choices that players have made throughout the game. So the gameplay is it's sort of interactive movie-ish, but we're trying not to make it too funneled. There's going to be lots of opportunity for exploration and moving around the environment, but the controls are rather simple. You're just picking from a series of options, whether it's moving to a certain location, inspecting the environment for certain things, picking dialogue options. It's all just a really, really easy control scheme that we found, surprisingly, it doesn't actually limit that much as far as the design of what we want to do with it.
Yeah, did you had a premiere kind of at a movie theater, but it was also interactive. Wasn't that a little while ago? I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah, so since it was just a very choice driven experience, when we premiered our pilot episode of Fogtown, we rigged up our game demo to the projector and just played that with the audience. And when choices appeared, we just had the crowd shout what choices they wanted to make. And our MC just kind of used his best judgment of whatever sounded loudest and said, okay, that's what we're going with. And it was a blast. I actually think that it would be a really fun way to experience the entire game in that kind of a crowd dynamic. But on a smaller scale too, I think it's really a perfect like family experience game where you just like get a bunch of friends or family together around a TV and have one person operating the controls and everybody else kind of weighing in. And the gameplay, it's largely about seeing cause and effect with the story. So everyone kind of gets they get a similar thing out of it.
I like that. Group game night and stuff. It's pretty cool too how you're blending comedy and puppets and mystery and FMV. Like, how do you even get all of those tones to play nice with each other? That must give you some challenges on a few different levels.
Well, they are pretty natural pairing, and in the pandemic, I really rekindled my love for FMV games and adventure games after kind of not playing them as much for a while for whatever reason. I found that they're the kind of the perfect thing to just stream with friends. So there's a great one called Contradiction that has kind of the tones of Fogtown in a lot of way. You got this cozy British mystery feel mixed with some pretty goofy characters and a lot of wild intrigue. And I just kind of fell in love with that game and a few others. And it sort of inspired me, or at least planted the seed at the back of my mind. I want to make one. I want to do one of those. And as we were getting Fogtown going to make the show, I thought, oh man, like, what if we offered an FMV game as like a backer reward to incentivize people to give us money for this thing? And it could be something really simple and small. Maybe it's like takes a half hour or an hour to play through, but would be kind of the vibe of the show, just interactive. And things quickly snowballed from there until it completely dwarfed the scope of what we were doing in the pilot. I almost yearned for the day when we were making a game that was going to be under an hour to beat, but it's all right. I'm here for it.
It sounds like you are. Gosh, well, there's like I was looking at one of your other interviews, and there's a part where you're talking about physically syncing puppet movement, real lights, and a rotating virtual background, and pulling focus by Bluetooth, and you're doing it all at once. Like, what is in your head when you're lining up a shot that complex? Like, are you mentally storyboarding or just kind of solving problems on the fly, or is it you that does it, or another team member?
Yeah, well, it is fun as hell. It's a wild like puzzle box of just a bunch of different challenges. It keeps my brain fully engaged, and I love doing it. The nice thing is we can scale this up in terms of complexity based off of the scene and how many people we have on set. We've done a lot of material with Fogtown is quite simple to film, which I suppose would probably be helpful for me to go into a little bit. The way that we shoot this,
Yeah, that would be cool.
is so it's all done with real puppetry. We have real puppets that have been, painted and hand costumed, and they are operated in front of 3D digital backgrounds that have been crafted to look kind of like a cardboard diorama version of a Victorian London. And rather than having to do a whole bunch of green screen work and post processing to make that happen, we're able to do it in camera. We just basically have our puppets in front of a screen, like a nice matte finish computer monitor. We light them well. We set up our camera and get everything like actually physically done in camera. We can still do some stuff in post if we need to. Every once in a while, there might be a green screen shot, but we really got inspired by the way that filmmaking has pivoted toward these volume-based stages, as they call them. Got really popularized with The Mandalorian, where you have like actual LED screens, just massive walls displaying the video content that the actors are in front of, so that your lighting looks a lot better. Your reflections of what's going on in the environment like become real. There's a lot less painful post-production work that has to be done to clean up things that are shot in a studio like that. So we just adopted those practices, shrunk them down to a super DIY micro scale, and found that it worked really great at producing results that I'm visually very, very happy with. And it's not very expensive.
Wow, so you've definitely found the right balance between analog and digital.
I like to think so. Like that's kind of the thing that I really enjoy about this, is it's blending the most cutting edge innovations that we can get right now with just this time honored, ancient, tactile puppetry, which is, I wouldn't say a lost art. There's a lot of people keeping those flames alive, but in terms of video games, I mean, there's not a lot of games that have actual puppets and FMV. I think offhand, the only one I can think of would be like the Muppet Treasure Island adventure game from the 90s. I don't know if we're the first one since that or not, but we're definitely one of the few that's out there. And I think that it's just a really fun way to do something that's very different with FMV, which is already certainly a niche.
Oh gosh, yeah. Okay. What is something that people would totally underestimate about working with puppets? Like, what's something that you wouldn't even think about? Most people, because most of us don't. I mean, outside of going to the toy shop as kids or getting a little marionette, and stuff, not very many of us have worked in post-production or pre-production with puppets.
Yeah. This will be answering very specific to the ways that ours have been designed, but their heads fall off a surprising amount of the time when you don't really mean for it.
Oh, just like when you're working with real people. I get it.
Yeah. When you have an unsafe film set and a lot of bladed things duct taped to your C stands. Yeah, that's about that as common as that.
So kind of like Phantasmagoria, you just have to watch out.
Oh yeah. There was a lot of real set accidents that just made it their way into the finish game there.
So you used Unreal Engine. What was the choice behind that?
That was chosen because that's the tool of choice that a lot of the productions are using currently to do the real-time 3D background stuff. When we started with Fogtown, we weren't doing real-time 3D in our filming process. It was okay. We have our nice 3D environments. We're going to render some cool angles and just set up a little static scene and film our puppets in front of that. We caught the attention of a really cool fellow named Dylan Wainwright, who did a lot of training with Unreal and learning how to use it as a filmmaking tool. And we'd intersected a little bit on some projects in the film industry in the past. And he said, "Hey, look, what you're doing is really neat. And I think if we put it into Unreal, you would be blown away at what you could do with in-camera effects." And we were. So that basically what that allows us to do is, when needed, and it's not always needed, it's something that takes a lot more work but is super cool. You can put 3D camera trackers on your camera, and as you move it around in an environment, it can interface with the environment that's in Unreal Engine and shift the digital perspective on the fly. So as you're moving your camera around, the whole world is syncing up with that, and you're getting to do these camera moves as if you're in a fully 3D space, but it's all within a flat monitor in the background. So as long as you're not swinging the camera wildly around the room and away from the television, the effect is very convincing. And yeah, I'm like, not the novelty value of that has not worn off at all for me. I think it's so awesome.
Well, it's a lot better. I think when people were making FMV games in the 90s, they could have only dreamed about the type of quality that you're showing up with here. I mean, how many CDs would it have taken to do something like that back in 1997?
Well, yeah, well, and just monitors, the resolution that you could play things back at was definitely constrained a bit too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, now with the ubiquity of pretty high quality video cameras that are attainable for pretty much everybody, and the advancements in video codecs and just how powerful computers are, it's amazing what we can do now as FMV hobbyists. That would have just been so technologically impossible a couple decades ago. And that's part of the reason why there's been a bit of a renaissance. I think it's a small one. It's still a genre that doesn't often break out into the mainstream, but there are a lot of FMVs being made, even if they're pretty under the radar, because the tools are so accessible, and because there's enough weirdos out there like me that are so endeared by them and want to keep that genre alive.
That is true. I remember playing Internet Court a while ago, and it was just like this fun little 1 hour game where you're essentially judging people in court for things that they do on Facebook or a weird comment that they make, right? And it was just such a fun random game, and it kind of really did. It felt like you were part of the team. The quality was beautiful. I mean, it was great nonsense. I love that sort of weird thing. So okay, you hinted earlier before we got on air, you had kind of a wild story about a publisher dangling a carrot and then ghosting, but in the most baffling way. Do you want to take a moment to unpack that?
Sure. It'll help explain why the title of our game changed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically, as I mentioned earlier, the game was initially conceived as like a small little thing just to incentivize people to give money to our TV show that was going to end up freely on YouTube with the pilot anyway. So it's like, we got to do something that will make people excited and pledge. Oh, let's offer them a little interactive game. Like, that's cool. That'll be lots of fun. It was originally supposed to be pretty humble, small little thing, but then it's kind of spiraled in a good way into attaining some pretty cool cast members who agreed to be part of it, to voice act for it, even though there was no script or semblance of who their characters might be. They were all for it, and some of them are FMV game legends. We have Dean Erickson, Gabriel Knight himself from The Beast Within, who hasn't acted in anything since that game, and Paul Morgan Stetler from Phantasmagoria 2. They're coming out of their acting retirements to play around with puppets, and I think that that's amazing. We have Rupert Booth, who is the lead in that aforementioned game Contradiction that I love so much. He's a delight. We have Lenville Brown, who's the narrator of Disco Elysium. We have Cissy Jones, who's the lead voice on the radio in Firewatch, and a host of other great games. The project started to gain more and more momentum, and when we launched our crowdfunder, we got so much activity on the adventure game community, just posting about it, that a publisher reached out to us right away. And it was a publisher that I had known of, publisher that had made games that I'd played, and asked us if we were looking to have a publisher. And we weren't planning on having to have one to make this game, but they offered us development funds if we were willing to expand our idea for the game into something that was a lot bigger and fits into their kind of general format. It was one of those opportunities that was so exciting. It was like, okay, well, let's not drop all of our initial plans for Fogtown, but let's put a lot more energy into developing a game pitch for them that could go somewhere cool. And it took a fair amount of our time and effort to come up with a story and a plan and a whole pitch packet for them. And when the time came to move forward with discussions, we never heard from them again. They acknowledged receipt of the pitch, and then that was the last we ever heard from them. Not even a no thanks.
Nothing.
So
ghosted.
Nothing.
Ghosted like a date on Tinder.
Completely ghosted.
No.
Which, in a lot of ways, well, I have this note in front of me. I wrote down to not get bitter. It says take it in stride, because largely I think it was really great that the opportunity arose and allowed us to come up with this project, with this story that we otherwise wouldn't have made. It's just unfortunate that that game was so beyond our means to do it on our little tiny crowdfunding budget, that we had to put that concept up on the shelf and scramble to come up with something that was a little bit more in between the original tiny scope we had, and then something that's like, a bit grander. So that's what A Rum Case in Fogtown is. It's a new story that will serve to set up, if we get the opportunity to ever make that full big game someday. I think it plants some good seeds that lead into that story being possible, but it's a very standalone, self-contained, satisfying mystery. And so I guess I like that storyline so much now that maybe that helps me make peace with the fact that that we did get ghosted by the publisher and had to invent it.
Yeah. So something good came out of it. It just you didn't know it at the time. At the time you were going around raging with your fists, but now you are happy with your smiles.
Exactly.
So how big is the crew behind this? I mean, what kind of roles are involved? Who's your main team, and do you have other people come in and out sometimes?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a flexible team. There's like a lot of people that are just on the show side, and a few people who are just on the game side, and then a bunch of people that really kind of the lines get blurred. And we're looking to grow the team right now on the game end, with the show being the pilot's all done, and we're able to shift a lot of attention to this end now. But the core team that's making the game currently, it's about a half dozen of us, and it seems like that's going to grow pretty soon. But our chief writer, who's been doing the vast majority of the legwork on the game this past year, has been Jack Allen, the editor-in-chief of Adventure Game Hotspot.
Yay, love Jack Allen.
Yeah. We have to say nice things about him on this podcast, don't we?
Oh, definitely.
Not at all because it's part of the AGH network.
Not at all. Not at all.
Jack is wonderful, but no,
but he really is. Oh my God, I have so much respect for Jack and everything he's accomplished. I mean, what a name in the adventure game industry. He is like the top of the top. Like, that is amazing that you have him on your team, and it would do great for continuity and all sorts of other reasons.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Talk about an unsung hero that guy is for the community. I mean, I discovered when I like really got into the adventure game genre, like I mentioned, it was because of adventuregamers.com, RIP. But I really was just so grateful that that site existed, and I became an avid like daily reader whenever there was content posted for good, more than a decade. And then now I'm part of Adventure Game Hotspot, writing articles every once in a blue moon for him, which is a blast. I really love doing that.
Yeah, I like that. And I mean, well, he'll be the one doing the write-up for this episode too, most likely. So he's everywhere.
And it's the great thing is he's also going to be reviewing the game. So the perfect 100 out of 100 is locked in, and there's no conflict of interest whatsoever.
None whatsoever. No, but that's good. So who else do you have on your team? I'm assuming there must be more than just the two of you.
There are. We've got a great game programmer, writer, maker. Mostly he's kind of worked solo on small narrative projects. His name is Reese Manick. He has a great little studio called Side Group Games. And he's really been kind of the main muscle behind the technical end of the project. He's like the one person on the team that actually has experience creating and shipping games. So we're leaning on him to make sure that we're actually able to back up our wild claims, because I mean, in theory, I can make games, but I'm just a filmmaker. This is my first game project. And so I definitely need this team to make it happen. We've got a great puppeteer named Notion, who worked on the pilot quite a bit and has is like eager to do a whole lot of puppetry for the game side of things. Yeah, and a couple other people that kind of come in and out as needed. The team is definitely in a flexible state right now, and looking to grow with potentially a producer in the near future for it as well.
Okay. So how do you find people? Is it just generally through word of mouth? Are you putting something on Indeed.com, or what's your strategy when you're bringing? Hey, and I mean, you can do it right here. You can always say, "Hey, this is what we're looking for."
We are looking for a producer. Universe, bring us I mean, what we've done so far is really not deliberately looked to grow the team. We just put little bits of what we're working on out there, and people have, like, really talented people have come out of the woodwork, and we found ways to bring them on. Last year, this wonderful event called Bay Area Maker Fair. It's a long-running place for DIY creative tech kind of people to show off their projects. We brought Fogtown down there with our little playable demo, and we met this awesome lady who offered to be a 3D environment artist for us, and she's making some scenes right now for the game. So we've just kind of grown the team by finding passionate puppetry fans out there who want to help bring this to fruition, and we've got almost all the pieces we need to do that. We just need a little bit more help on the producing end and navigating time frames, game budgets. We'd love to find some development funding to make this properly, but one way or another, this thing's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's true. Well, it sounds like you have a good crew. And I mean, talking about, so would you classify it as a FMV game, or like, where would you categorize Fogtown?
It's definitely an FMV game, but I think that term just elicits a from 99% of people. Exactly. So it's probably not what I would market it as, but it's FMV to its core.
Right.
Just in a less conventional way, where we're there's no live actors on screen, but the puppetry is all done very Muppet style rather than stop motion. So it still technically qualifies for being a live action production.
Right. Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, okay, so FMV, full motion video, has been around since the early days of CD-ROM gaming when we had titles like Phantasmagoria and The Seventh Guest or Night Trap, but at the time they were totally pushing the limits of what a video could do in a game, but it was pretty clunky, it was experimental, and it was charming, right? It was like part movie, part game, and it looked like a gimmick that wouldn't survive. But I feel FMV is coming back and it's definitely evolving. We have better tech, tighter storytelling, and creators who get the quirks of the genre. And we're seeing like this whole new wave of hybrid experiences. Games like Her Story or Telling Lies or Fogtown, they're not just reviving FMV. I think you guys are rewriting the rules entirely.
Wow.
So
I'll take
but,
it.
but where do you see live action games going? Are we seeing like a full blown comeback? I mean, like you'd say with adventure games, they're having a bit of a resurgence. You think the same thing's happening in this genre?
I think they totally could.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I think that they should, if only because there's just so much that you can do with a real performance. Like an actual actor, you see their face, and it's not a bunch of mo-capped super tech that's just just barely able to trick you into thinking it's real. I mean, that's great. It has its purpose, but there's something so charming, so emotionally affecting, so retro in a way too about doing games this way. And I really hope that it does stick around. And I think that as the tools continue to get more and more accessible, we're probably just going to get more and more of them happening. And I'm all for it, absolutely all for it. Because I'll even play bad ones. I'm so endeared by the genre. So
Well, what makes it a good or a hybrid? Like, what makes it a good experience playing a new game that's an FMV versus like if you were to play a '90s FMV game, you'd be a little bit more forgiving, I would assume, on what's a good experience versus what isn't a good experience.
Uh, well, would I? I mean, maybe back in the day, yes. Now, I mean, time's precious. I'll delve into some old games here and there for fun's sake, but I would probably rather play a good game first and foremost
Right.
than one that. But uh, luckily, there is a huge wealth of really cool FMV games out there, more than I'll ever be able to play. It's only been in recent years that I've just learned how just how many there are out there that just dwarfed my perception of that market. So yeah, I mean, the other thing about FMV games too is they really span um, the genres a bit. Like calling FMV a genre is kind of misleading because it's like it would be like saying, "Oh, I enjoy media that's in the movie genre. I like movies for my stories." It's like, wait, but that could be any kind of story in that. And FMV, that's very true. You can have. There's been no shortage of absolutely schlocky B grade, silly horror FMVs out there, of course, but there's plenty of more serious mystery FMVs or really oddball, artsy, experimental mind trip FMVs, and everything in between. I just love that it's a way of taking the genre of cinema and adding that interactive element. I don't know. I feel like I'm parroting old bullet points from what they would be saying about this in the 90s, but like it's like the possibilities are endless. It's an exciting new frontier of cinema that you can play.
That's what they thought it was going to be. Like, I think they were sitting there at a table and they're like, okay, I know people like to play games and games are going to be the future, but we still want people to watch movies. How can we make the movies interactive so they play them like games? I think we have a thing. And they're all high fiving and going, this is the future, right?
And it probably would have been if they didn't all chase trends and swap gears as soon as 3D graphics advanced to the point that those were the hot new thing, and everybody kind of just dumped dumped the FMV stuff like it was going out of style. They made it go out of style, but people weren't ready to give it all up. There's a lot of us out there that have really latched onto it as this beloved part of gaming history, and there's no reason that its heyday has to be in the past.
No, I agree. Well, when you tell people that you're making a live action game or an FMV game, do they like what do they commonly get wrong? Like, do they generally get what you mean right away, or do they have a misconception about what it is?
We found that it's helpful to explain that it's kind of like a choose your own adventure experience, and a lot of people are familiar with Netflix's brief foray into doing this when they had like their interactive Black Mirror episode and a couple other things like that, which they have also dumped like it's going out of style.
They
Thanks,
did.
Netflix.
I know. Those were fun. I liked those.
So I think a lot of people do get it
Hmm.
fairly quickly, but there is definitely, when people see it, I think a lot of people think that it's either stop motion or that it's some sort of really fancy real-time 3D graphics, because to be fair, Unreal Engine, if you wanted to go there, is so advanced these days that yes, you probably could make something that looked like perfectly photoreal actual puppetry in a 3D engine, but that's a little bit beyond our resources.
Right.
We're filmmakers first and foremost, so the fact that making an FMV game is like, in a lot of ways, kind of like 90% of the effort is about producing the video clips, and the way that our engine stitches them together is just a much smaller part of the process. Makes this a doable thing for someone like me that on paper has no business making a video game this big out of the gate.
Well, okay, let's say somebody walked up and said, "Here's $5 million." Like, what would you do to scale it up? Would you more characters, bigger sets, more interactivity? Like, what would you do with it?
Oh boy, 5 million.
5 million.
5 million. That's like 5 times more than that publisher that Ghosted Us was offering. I mean, I would say, you want us to make 5 games? I'll dedicate the next 10 years of my life to Fogtown. Let's dance.
Hmm. Hmm. That would be pretty awesome.
I mean, the whole thing is, it's very, it's that transmedia lens with the whole making content in different mediums. Like, we want this to be a franchise that supports games, that supports a TV series or a web series, however you want to look at it there. I think if someone wanted to invest in the Fogtown brand, we would very easily find ways to stretch every dollar um, quite far. Yeah, we would do all kinds of stuff with $5 million. Would we change the game design if that's what they wanted us to do, and like add more stuff that goes beyond purely FMV? We have ideas. We have ideas for how we could scale this up and give it a bit more interactivity, but for now, we're pretty confident and comfortable in being able to deliver a really, really, really fun and funny comedy mystery experience that's just got a lot of interactivity, and I think should have a lot more choice and consequence to it than I think what people tend to expect from this genre as well.
Oh, interesting. So what do you have? What exactly is in development currently? If you look around at yourself and the team, what is happening and what's the goal? Like more episodes, more work on the game, because you just have the first episode out right now. What's kind of the plan in the next 6 months?
Yeah, so we've produced our pilot, and it's definitely, I would call that a proof of concept. Like, it's not really the start of the show. It's kind of our way of wrapping our heads around, like, what is it like to make long form content in this universe? What's working? What's not working? Right now, all our energy is pretty much on the game, because we have an obligation to create that, and the excitement is definitely there.
It sure is.
And so we're just working toward getting that made, but in the background we do have a show that's ready to pitch, and if funding were to come and enabled us to work on both simultaneously, we definitely have to grow the team to do that, but we'd be prepared to do that. Right now we're just kind of working under the assumption that we have to make a game with potentially zero more dollars flowing in, and finding a way to bootstrap it. And once that's out there, then we'll see if the next steps are new game in the franchise, getting the show more rolling, both at once. It's all, I'm here for it. As long as I get to work on more Fogtown,
Yeah.
I'll be a happy guy.
All right. Well, just a couple of questions. So, can you, if you're thinking back, what was like the worst or most awkward day on the set? Was there ever a day where everything just kind of went wrong, and you're just like, I'm gonna call it. Today is absolutely done.
Every day on this set has been a joy, and
I
I've
love
loved
it.
it. It's made me so
Aw.
happy. That said, there's definitely days where, compared to other ones, it's just like you just guffawing through the absolute pain of like what we're trying to pull off. Some of it is very technically complicated and bewildering, and there's a bit of cursing our year ago selves for not realizing what we were going to do to ourselves when staging certain sequences. I mean, on the pilot, let's see. There's a whole sequence where there's this sword fight, and by and large, that was not that hard to film. What was hard to film was the shot that initiates the sword fight. Sherlock picking up a spatula to use as his implement, getting that motion on screen, very tricky. I mean, historically, there's always tricks that have to be done when you're interacting with props with a puppet, especially if they're going from not holding something to holding something within the span of the same shot. There's tricks you got to do, and our puppets are tiny, like they're about 9 inches tall, and so getting little fine motions with the arms, which are all on rods, it's very much like a Muppet that's just kind of shrunk down. The process of doing that shot, I think it was like 55 takes. It took us many hours for a 1 second moment. So bits like that, I think that might have been, maybe that was all we got done that day.
Right.
Couple seconds of material. But it worked. In the end, we can look at that and go, "Wow, that looks great." No one will ever realize how much work that took, but we do. We did it. The nice thing about having the pilot under our belt now is we've learned how to expedite things. So for our game, I think right now we're clocking around 5 to 10 minutes of footage that we can shoot in a day, like finished material that actually goes into the game, which, uh, from my experience working in the film industry, like that's a really good level for just normal live action film. Um, so we're trying to make it as efficient, if not more, in some cases than that, which is largely possible due to the way that we're shooting this with the virtual production puppets in front of our digital environments. It's so cool. It's so freeing. I can't wait to do more of it.
Which I know you mentioned about the heads falling off, and that's the thing. Which puppet misbehaves the most?
Ooh, that's varied over time as they take more and more battle damage and get new quirks. But I would say that we have this one character named Inspector Lefraud, who he spent a lot of the pilot tied up to a chair, and he, yeah, it was rough on him that whole show. by the end, like he didn't really have a functioning neck anymore. Like all the puppets are supposed to have this articulated movement they can do with their heads to look 360 degrees, and he could not. In the
Aw.
final shots we got of him, he was just kind of able to barely move his head, but that's all we needed. We made it work.
Mhm.
But he's going to need some TLC before we shoot with him again.
Right. Yeah, you'll have to make an insurance claim, get some payouts, give him some medical attention, and he'll be back on track in no time.
Yeah, 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 and bribe the police union
Right,
for
of course.
assaulting an officer too much. Yeah.
So, if you were to meet somebody aspiring and they wanted to make their own FMV game, what would you warn them? What have you learned over this time? And you'll be like, absolutely do not do this.
uh, Gosh, I would say if it's your first time making one, like just do something that you know with confidence that you have the means to produce. Like don't go so crazy ambitious that the project gets away from you. There's tools out there that make it quite easy to make FMV games. I threw one together as a kind of like a little game jam with family during vacation once, just to make sure that I could make this if worse came to worse on my own. So yeah, it really depends on your team, but I think there's something that's very empowering about knowing that if it came down to it, if it's your game, your concept, like it's it's very freeing if you have that safety net to fall back on and be like, I can make this on my own. If circumstances change, if the rug gets pulled out from under me and people have to leave the project, like I can still do it. Like have that as a baseline. And then if you get collaborators that can come in and help you push beyond that, that's freaking wonderful.
I like that. Okay, so if you were to like mash up Fogtown as a show with another show randomly and do like a crossover episodes, like Simpsons and the Family Guy or, something like that, what show do you think might be fun to cross it over with? It could be one that influenced it maybe, or just one that you think would be a fun novelty.
Oh man, what a question. I would say kind of the chief inspirations would be good options. That would be, the Muppets. That would be Wallace and Gromit. What else is leaping to mind? I don't know how this would cross over, but Over the Garden Wall. That's one of my
Ooh.
favorites,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely has influenced a lot of tonal stuff in Fogtown. Yeah, the Mighty Boosh.
Right? Okay.
Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. I don't know.
Yes.
You could go. You could go anywhere.
That's
Uh,
cool. I could imagine stuff like that actually. Okay, so before we wrap up, and I got a few things to say after, so don't run away. But is there anything else that you're working on right now, or stuff you've done in the past, or anything you'd want people to check out? It can be game related or even totally unrelated. This is just the time to shamelessly promote whatever you like.
oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm devoting a good 80% of my project creative energy into Fogtown, I'd say. But leading up to making Fogtown, I worked with my lifelong creative partner, Austin Hillebrecht, who co-created Fogtown with me on a bunch of funny, goofy, odd comedy videos under the label of Hapstance Films on YouTube. There's definitely a lot of Fogtown DNA in that. And I'm working on another puppet kind of side project while Fogtown is going on, where I take basically arguments that happen on the internet and dramatize them with finger puppets.
We need that. The world
Yeah.
needs that.
So one of those came out a few years ago, and I'm just about to release a second one finally. That series is called Finger Feuds, and it's also on the Hapstance YouTube channel. And then I make music. I'm an instrumental composer under the moniker of Other Home, and I will see if I lend those talents to Fogtown or not. There's some other pretty talented people that can do that end of things. That's another creative outlet that I've really loved doing, and definitely I would say been inspired by game soundtracks, including adventure games, to find that kind of tone in what I do there.
Mhm. I like that. Is that it? Anything else?
That's
I mean, that's a lot already. So I'm.
I feel like that's enough calls to action for people to Google for one episode. But yeah.
Definitely. We'll do some Googling. It's really been cool talking to you, being the mind behind Fogtown. It's a project that refuses to sit still, refuses to be normal, and absolutely refuses to be boring. It somehow makes the absurd feel sincere, and I really appreciate that about the
Oh,
game.
I'm very glad to hear that.
If you
Thank you.
haven't already, check out the pilot, wishlist the game, and keep your eye on what Sean is doing next. But before we go, I want to take a minute to remember someone who meant a lot to this community and to me personally and Sean, and that's Roberta Vaughan. If you've been part of the adventure game scene, chances are you've felt her presence, even if you didn't realize it. She had this super rare gift of lifting people up, showing up for all their funky, weird little projects, no matter the size, and making a space for passion and creativity. Whether it was a major release or just a tiny fan idea, she always treated it like it mattered. And she really loved Fogtown. She championed it from the very beginning. Her and Sean were really good friends, so it feels especially meaningful to be closing this episode with Sean here by saying, Roberta, we miss you, but you know, your voice and your support and your enthusiasm, they're still echoing through everything that we do in the community, and I know it's going to continue to. So this episode and all of it, that's for you.
Roberta, you're the best. Fogtown owes a huge debt of gratitude toward you for all that you did to champion it. I'm still, I still kind of get like self-consciously floored when I find pictures of her from cons that I didn't attend, and it's like, oh, there she is wearing a Fogtown shirt once again. She connected us with so many people. She put so much belief into the project. She gave so many just gosh darn good pep talks to me when I needed them. And I will just be forever so grateful to know her.
Thank you. So, and thank you for listening. If you ever find yourself investigating a missing crime, maybe perhaps, I don't know, it's located under the fish and chips or something like that.
Always. Never trust the fish and chip show.
Never.
They're up to all kinds of shady stuff.
So before we close the book completely on this case, I want to give a quick shout out to some of the newest folks over on our Patreon. Sienna, Ryan Stone, Fabrian KB, Charles Smith, and SF. Welcome aboard, crew. And a huge thank you, as always, to our true believers. You guys are the lifeblood of this thing. And that is Yanis, Chapman, Christopher, Gareth, Tim, Mick, Brian, and Mark. And, of course, our very own Paul Corman. You better be listening wherever you are. You're all keeping the lights on, the episodes rolling, and helping indie creators like Sean to do their thing. So thank you for that.
You the best.
You the best. Do you want to say hi? Do you want to ask a question? Do you want to tell us about another FMV game that has puppets in it outside of Muppets Treasure Island and Fogtown? Maybe even send me a weird FMV recommendation you want me to try. You totally can do that.
Oh, please forward it to me too.
See, it goes double on this one, and to Paul, obviously. But email us your words, mail at cggpodcast.com. We're on Twitter at cggpodcast, Paul at the Phantom Fellows. If you haven't picked up the game yet for yourself or a friend, go ahead and do that. Leave a review, share the word, or just share the post that Paul puts up talking about the game and what he's working on, dev interviews and everything else. It means a lot. You can check out the game. There's a lot of extra info. So on the phantomfellows.com, you can not only get a walkthrough of the game, but you can get a behind the scenes, an achievement guide, and all sorts of cool stuff that's available there. You can find us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube. Gosh, there's so many places to be. And then come talk classic games with us. Join the Classic Gamers Guild Facebook group, or like the podcast page. And if you want to support the show and get your name read out in a future episode, Patreon is the place, patreon.com/Classic Gamers Guild. Now I'm going to have to pretend to be Paul, and I'll say, don't do a murder.
Sherlock will definitely track you down.
That's perfect.
Nothing is as big as this, Bloxin.
You may be onto something.
Shut up your mouths. I'm onto something. We must set a trap for this assassin. A mouse trap.
Oh, Sherlock, I wanted to do the crossword.
Consider yourself spared. The hint for impecunious was not pecunious. Utter trash.
If your brain had a uterus, I would gladly father its children.
There is no time for that, Bloxin.
I've read all your letters. You're brilliant. I wanted to feature you as Detective of the Month.
That was the mice. Continue.